Here, the timing is perfect. Coco was walking over, Venus sat down, Sloane Stephens came over. We have 3 decades of excellence and 3 absolute jabronis on this side of the table. Chris Eubank, Sam Curry, Adam Lefkoe, humbly sitting next to Venus Williams, Coco Gauff, and Sloane Stephens. Thank you, guys.
Something unusual is quietly building in the background of professional tennis, and almost no one is talking about how big it could become. Imagine 2 generations of power, experience, and unfinished chemistry suddenly colliding again. Not as a nostalgic moment, but as a move that could actually shake the competitive balance right now. That possibility started with just a simple reflection, a casual thought. But when a legend like Venus Williams hints that teaming up again with Coco Gauff could actually work better this time, it stops being a memory and starts feeling like a warning. Because this isn't about revisiting the past. It's about timing, evolution, and something that feels strangely unfinished. Why bring it up now? Why suggest they'd play better today? And more importantly, what has changed behind the scenes that suddenly makes this reunion feel not just possible, but almost inevitable? Stay with this, because the story didn't begin today. It began years ago in a moment most people completely misunderstood. Years ago, something happened that most people dismissed as just another early round doubles match. But in reality, it may have been the beginning of a story that never truly finished. When Venus Williams and Coco Gauff first shared the court together at the French Open, it looked like a simple experiment, a legend and a rising teenager testing chemistry under pressure. They fought hard, they pushed, they showed flashes. But then it ended quickly, quietly, almost like something interrupted before it had the chance to fully form. And that's exactly why it matters now. Because that match wasn't a failure. It was unfinished potential, frozen in time. One player was still growing into her power. The other was carrying decades of experience. And the balance between them wasn't ready yet. But here's the unsettling part. What if that moment wasn't the real version of what they could be? What if it was only a preview of something that needed years to mature before it could actually work? Because when partnerships end before they fully develop, they don't disappear, they wait. But time didn't just pass. It reshaped everything. The teenager who once stepped onto that court, full of raw promise, is now a battle-tested champion who has handled pressure on the biggest stages, learned how to survive momentum swings, and built a level of composure that simply didn't exist back then. And on the other side, the veteran who already carried one of the most decorated careers in the sport didn't fade into the background the way many expected. Instead, she adapted, recalibrated, and quietly refined the kind of tactical awareness that only comes from decades of winning, losing, and adjusting at the highest level. This is no longer youth standing beside legacy. This is power meeting precision at exactly the moment both understand the game differently. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. When elite experience evolves instead of declines, it becomes unpredictable. The same force that once dominated alongside Serena Williams now carries a completely different strategic mindset, one shaped by endurance, patience, and timing. So, if they stood on the same side of the net today, it wouldn't resemble what we saw before. It would be something far more calculated, far more balanced, and possibly far more dangerous than anyone is prepared for. But while all of this quiet evolution has been happening, something else has been unfolding under pressure. And it's far more emotional than people realize. Because even as Coco Gauff keeps winning, fighting, and pushing deep into major tournaments, there are cracks that only appear in the most intense moments. And when they show publicly. During the Dubai Tennis Championships, frustration spilled out in real time, not in defeat, but in the middle of battle, in the heat of expectation, in a moment where control seemed to slip just enough to reveal something deeper: doubt, pressure, urgency. And that changes how you see everything, because dominance isn't just physical, it's mental stability under relentless scrutiny. When small technical struggles keep repeating, when adjustments don't seem to deliver immediate results, when the weight of expectation grows louder with every match, something begins searching for balance. And this is where the possibility of a partnership suddenly feels less like nostalgia and more like strategy. Because what if experience isn't just valuable on court? What if it becomes emotional armor? What if guidance doesn't come from a coach's box, but from the present standing right beside you during every point? Suddenly, a reunion isn't just exciting, it might be exactly what the moment demands. And while the spotlight has been fixed on the next generation, something else has been happening quietly, almost invisibly.
Wow. Let us go. I'm going with Venus because she is the queen first. These two right here, specifically Coco, who just went out there and won a match today. Your impressions of the young star who's really performing at a super high level as of late?
Of course, so happy for you. You're here. I'm so glad you came and took the time out.
And that might be the most dangerous part of all. Because Venus Williams didn't just return to competition, she re-entered the rhythm of match play with a purpose that feels far more deliberate than people expected. After stepping back, after long stretches away, after questions about endurance, timing, and longevity, she didn't chase headlines. She chased matches, doubles matches, repetition, court awareness, competitive sharpness. And suddenly, deep runs started appearing again. Like that surge to the later rounds of the US Open alongside Leylah Fernandez. A performance that didn't just show survival, it showed coordination, instinct, and timing that only sharpen when someone is preparing for something specific. That's what makes this comeback feel different. Not emotional, not ceremonial, strategic. Because players don't quietly rebuild competitive doubles form unless there's a reason to be ready. And if readiness is growing, if rhythm is returning, if partnerships keep forming and reforming, then the real question isn't whether she can still compete. It's what or who she might be preparing to compete with. And then there's the timing, and this is where everything starts to feel almost too perfectly aligned to be coincidence. Because just as speculation begins to grow, just as conversations about partnerships quietly resurface, the calendar delivers one of the most watched stages outside the Grand Slams, the Indian Wells Open, a tournament where momentum shifts fast, where statements are made without warning, where unexpected pairings don't just appear, they announce themselves to the entire tennis world at once. And here's what makes it even more intriguing: wild cards, entries, scheduling windows. All the small logistical doors that can suddenly open at the same time, creating opportunities that didn't exist weeks earlier. The event unfolds inside the Indian Wells Tennis Garden, a place players call tennis paradise. But for fans watching closely, it's also where surprises tend to materialize without explanation. And when a stage this big becomes available at the exact moment both readiness and speculation are rising, it stops feeling random. It starts feeling like positioning, like timing isn't just convenient, it's waiting for something to step into it. If this actually happens, the ripple effect won't be subtle. It will be immediate, loud, and impossible to ignore. Because a partnership between Venus Williams and Coco Gauff wouldn't just be another doubles team entering a draw, it would instantly become a psychological event for the entire field. Opponents wouldn't just be facing skill, they'd be facing legacy fused with momentum, experience merged with peak competitive hunger. Rankings pressure would shift, match preparation would change, expectations would spike overnight. And suddenly every tournament they enter would feel less like a bracket and more like a storyline unfolding in real time. Fans would sense it immediately. That rare tension when something historic might be forming before results even arrive. And that's what makes this possibility so unsettling for everyone watching. Because when a legend who understands how to win across eras aligns with a champion still climbing toward her ultimate dominance, it doesn't just create a team, it creates uncertainty. And in elite sport, uncertainty is the one thing no competitor ever wants to face. And now, everything circles back to the one question no one can answer yet. If all the signs are lining up, if the timing feels intentional, if readiness is quietly building on both sides, then what's stopping it from happening? Because hints have been dropped, possibilities have been acknowledged, and the conditions that once made it unlikely don't seem to exist anymore. The past is unfinished, the present is perfectly aligned, and the future feels like it's waiting for a single decision to turn speculation into reality. The tennis world hasn't seen them stand side by side again in years, but the idea refuses to disappear. It keeps resurfacing, growing louder, feeling more real with every passing tournament. And maybe that's the most unsettling part, not whether it can happen, but whether it's already closer than anyone realizes. So, now the only thing left to watch is the moment everything goes quiet, right before something major is finally revealed.